This is The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Whether you're a seasoned real estate expert, a first-time home buyer, or if you're simply passionate about hearing small business stories, this is the podcast for you. Join us as we dive deep into the world of real estate and beyond.
Today's episode is sponsored by Eco Roofing. Eco Roofing is the premier Arizona state roofer that offers free estimates as well as the best roof warranty that will last 25 years. Make sure to check them out and check the description for more info. Welcome to episode 55 of The Real Deal. I am your host, Janine and Igliane, with Ryan Hatcher today.
What's up, guys?
And today we are peeling back the curtain. You guys are going to get the nitty gritty, and we're going to share what we hate about working in real estate. Are you up for this, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. Plenty to talk about.
We really love it. I do feel like I need to say that.
Yeah.
But to be honest, there's a lot about working in real estate that people don't think of. Like, one of my favorite things is when someone says to me, I want to get in real estate because I love looking at pretty houses. Yeah. If they only knew that is like a teeny tiny part of what we do. In fact, you were just saying earlier what your biggest pet peeve is.
Yeah.
Share it.
Yeah. So before I get into that, 100% agree. Like, we love our careers. We love it. We love what we do. But any career, there are things that you're not going to love doing or you're not going to have great experiences with. So we'll get into some of that. One of my biggest pet peeves when we're walking into somebody's house is when it's dirty. Yeah. So the thing about that is it's controllable, right? So let me give you a little experience. I was just showing homes a couple weeks ago with this young lady. It was her first home, and she is a self-proclaimed neat freak, like clean freak. And she walked into this house, and it was just dirty. There was just grimy stuff everywhere, and like the tubs were dirty. There was nasty stuff on the walls. It looked like you could tell they had a kid, and they probably just didn't have their hands clean. And the baseboards were dirty, the fan blades, everything. And so I found myself kind of judging in my mind. I didn't say anything, but I was judging in my mind this listing. And I felt bad because later I talked to the listing agent, and it was a single dad with a special needs child and 2 dogs. And he was just barely getting by. And it was more of an urgent sale. So I definitely felt compassion for them, and I understood it. Oddly enough, that is the house that my client ended up buying. Yeah. And she said that luckily she was able to look past the grossness. And I had our cleaners come in and do a deep clean before she actually moved into it. And it looked like a completely different house.
Well, that's amazing because most buyers can't look past it.
Right.
They can't see it. They will build up a story and say, okay, well, if they're not taking care of this, what else are they not taking care of?
I think it's important that people understand why, because automatically the buyer in their mind is thinking, if this is how it looks on its best day, what's it normally look like? What are they not taking care of that I can't see? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So those are real concerns, and most would turn around and walk out. Right. Even if the house is beautiful, would be beautiful, they would just leave. Yeah. So that's huge, and it's 100% controllable. Yeah. So here's what I want to say about that. This is a great lesson for everybody. If there's one thing that you can do to list your house and you have no time or money to do anything else, that is clean it from top to bottom. That's windows, that's flooring, that's fan blades, that's vents, replace your AC vents, all of those things. If you make it clean, you now have greatly increased your chances of getting top dollar for it and for it selling. Mm-hmm. If that is a hard thing to do, like let's say you don't have time to do it, talk to your agent. I would absolutely take care of it because we believe in it so much. We'll figure it out, but it's absolutely worth a couple $100. Because you're going to lose thousands if you don't do it. Thousands. Yeah.
And not to go off about that, but when our clients follow our process and do what we say, it always works out better for them, right? When it comes to selling a home. And it's when they don't that it's frustrating and it takes longer. So, and that to that point, which kind of leads into one of the other parts of real estate that I hate. I kind of hate this market, if I'm honest. It's a difficult market. Things are on the market longer. They're taking longer to sell. We're having to make price reductions, and that's super hard. It's hard for our clients. And the challenge with that is when you price a home like today, we're looking at things that have closed in up to 6 months ago. But that's old data,
Yes.
right? So what's happening today? Well, what's happening today is there's a lot of election uncertainty. There's interest rate uncertainty. So there's a lot of hesitation from buyers. So it just makes it harder to sell. And as we sit on the market, reduce, well, now that's going to be the new standard in price. And it's hard for sellers to see that happen. And it's hard to have to give the bad news. One thing I think about us is we will always give them honesty, right? We'll always provide data to back that up so that they can see it and see it with their own eyes. And always come from a place of what's in their best interest. At the end of the day, right, we can sit at the kitchen table with our clients all day long to set a price on a home, but it's ultimately the market that dictates what that home ultimately sells for. And it's also your competition, because if you're the only home on the market that matches those, has those features that the client's looking for, then you're going to get a better price for it. But if there's 10 of you that a buyer has to choose from, then you're going to be competing, and that's going to drive that price down.
So I want to go back to that point with comps being lagging indicators, right? So even a week ago, the same model, same floor plan could have sold for this dollar figure. That doesn't mean that by the time we go live with this house that it's going to sell for the same amount. Because if we're seeing the market trending downward and people are more concerned and they're not as quick to jump off the fence and buy a house, then it probably will sell for less. Mm-hmm. And it goes the other way too. If it's quickly going up, that lagging indicator of those comps, we might be able to push value.
For sure.
So that's why it's super important to have agents that are in it every day and understand the market. And then what we do is give proper expectations on, this is what the market's doing, this is what we're seeing, so expect this to happen.
Yeah.
Now, none of it is written in stone,
Well, and that's why I don't think our business can ever be fully automated, and you can never fully get rid of realtors, because there is a component of how you market the home, how you present the home, to your point, right?
Yes,
Being
yes.
intentional with it. Who that you can get connected to bring them into the home. All of those factors are different agent by agent. But if selling a home was a mathematical equation, then yes, you don't need us. But unfortunately, it's not that way. Ryan, there have been times where we have missed the mark and we haven't got it right? Mm-hmm. I have one right now.
Let's talk about that. What do you mean, missed the mark?
Well, we priced it here, and the market is telling us, I don't like your price. I need you to reduce it, and I need you to reduce it. That's painful.
Yeah.
I have, and again, this is me like pulling back the curtain and being totally honest. I had a client tell me just last night, Janine, we trusted you, and this isn't what you said would happen. That was hard to hear. It was nice because the husband followed up with, we know you're doing everything. We appreciate you. We think you're amazing. They were just frustrated with the process, frustrated with the market.
Yeah.
And that's difficult.
And there is an art and a science to this. Mm-hmm. Like there is no perfect cookie cutter thing. Otherwise it would be automated.
Right.
And so sometimes we do get it slightly wrong. I wouldn't say grossly wrong, just slightly. And if that means we're off by 10,000, it may sit another 2 weeks more than it should have or could have.
That's the hard part, right? That's one of the things that I hate. The other part, or another thing, if I can kind of pivot, is that okay?
Hit it.
We work with a lot of people. Some like us, some don't.
Yeah.
We have a lot of, I think especially where we are, everybody knows a ton of realtors, right? And so there's a lot of competition out there. I don't know if you feel comfortable sharing. You had somebody close to you that chose to work with someone else, and that was pretty painful. Yeah,
that's tough. And I think you'll find with most realtors, it's a personal thing because this is a relationship-based business, at least for us. So there are a million different ways to do real estate. And some realtors will purchase leads. And then those leads come in and they just kind of work them and they touch base with them and drip on them until they're ready, and then they go do their thing. And then usually at the end of the transaction, it's done. Like they don't really communicate beyond that. Our goal is very different. The vast majority of our business comes from referrals or repeat business or people that see us in our communities. And so there's a much higher level of trust and credibility instantly because of those referrals or because they see us every day, every month.
Which makes it amazing.
And that's why I love
like the good part
how
of what we do.
Yeah. Because because the transaction doesn't feel like a transaction.
Yeah.
It's a relationship. Like I honestly feel like the people that we're working with, they're my family, and it's so fun, and it is stressful. Most of the time it's, but it's fun. And on occasion where we'll have that referral that comes through that has no idea who we are and they decide to work with us, I find that there's less trust.
Yeah.
And so my favorite client, we've talked about this. I just had one recently where I'm selling their house and they literally let us do everything and take care of it for them. And they trusted us entirely. And it worked out really well for them.
Yeah. Same with my sellers that we stage their home, have multiple offers, get them a fantastic offer, and they fully trusted and just did exactly what we said. And it just goes so much better.
Yeah. And so to me, that's probably if I could define my favorite client, it would be that. It's somebody who knows us, likes us, and actually trusts us to do
and listens. Yeah.
What they need us to do.
Yeah. Well, and in full disclosure, the client that said that to me last night didn't listen and do everything that I had said to do. And that's also a hard conversation. Yeah. So sometimes we're having hard conversations with people, right? Buying a home, selling a home is one of the most stressful things I heard outside of like death, divorce, getting married. Buying and selling a house is like up there with one of the most stressful things that you can do, right? Our job is to minimize that stress. And to your point earlier, when they follow us and they listen to us, we do have that experience with them. But the times when they don't, it's kind of like it's frustrating and we're butting heads, but we also have to manage that. And that's the other component of what we do that nobody realizes is there's times where we become like counselors. How many times, Ryan, because this has happened to me this week, probably 3 times, where I'm on a group call with a husband and wife and they're bickering over something, right? And we're trying to stay neutral and mediate that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we had a listing appointment and the couple was divorcing and she's crying the whole time. And he's just like, he even said he was a jerk.
Yeah.
Like 4 times.
I think he used some other language,
he did,
but yes.
He did. And I'm just thinking, man, this is going to be tough. And it ended up being a really great transaction. And the cool thing is they reconciled and they're still together today.
That is awesome.
Which is cool. But yeah, sometimes it's really tough.
Yeah, you're dealing with really difficult situations that aren't always easy. They're not selling under the best of circumstances. And so we have to become like counselors to help walk them through that and keep them level-headed too. That's the other thing. Like one of the offers we got this week came in really, really low on one of my listings. And I will say to any agent listening, I think it is a really bad move to write a really low offer just for the sake of writing a low offer, because you run the risk of insulting your seller. And that's exactly what happened in this situation. Got this offer. My seller was totally insulted and didn't even want to respond. He said, I don't even want to respond. Like, this is a ridiculous offer. I let him cool down. Here's me kind of playing counselor. I said, here, take the night, think about it. Let's at least throw them a counter, right? It doesn't hurt. If they take it, great. If not, then no harm off our back. Next morning, he was much more calm and agreed to do it. And we ended up getting them under contract. Wow. But having to kind of manage that process with them and help them. And that's why I would never advise a client to write a ridiculous offer. But the other thing I'll say to that is when you start off on that wrong foot, we still have inspection to go through, right? We still have to figure out a bunch of things. And my clients are just going to have a bad taste in their mouth. So it doesn't do you any favors to start off that way.
Well, not only that, but that agent didn't even call you before.
Nope.
How often does that happen?
Unfortunately, you can tell an agent's experience by how they handle that process. And I knew right away that this was not the greatest of agents.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a great lesson for the consumer out there who's thinking about hiring their agent. That's a question I would be asking. Like, how do you actually handle the negotiation process and writing the offer to begin with? I can't think of a single time where I was representing a buyer and I did not have a conversation with that listing agent.
For sure.
And we get them all the time.
For sure.
They just text over something or they'll just email the offer. They have no idea what our seller really needs.
Yeah. And this is why something I'm so passionate about, and I know you are too, Ryan, is representing our clients really, really well. And I think we do that. We're hard negotiators, but we do it with grace, and we have great realtor relationships.
That's key. That's key because if we burn those bridges by how we approach this particular offer, they're not going to want to work with us the next time.
100%.
And we see this a lot where
100%.
we're able to get our client the house because of that relationship we have with the other agent. And even if they don't know us, they know of us most of the time. Yep. And it's huge.
So who you choose to work with, I know we say this all the time, but it matters so significantly because it can cost you the home. I have 2 examples I can give you. The first one is just happened yesterday. The agent called to write an offer on my list, or actually sent the offer over, was all cash, and was called me because we sent a small counter. He wasn't happy about the counter, and he was a total jerk on the phone, total jerk to me. And I took it respectfully, responded. And in the meantime, the other offer came back and said, hey, we really love this house. We're going to write a new offer even better. I ended up withdrawing my counter offer to that jerk agent and got the other offer. We went under contract. And when I called him back, he said, well, we were going to accept that counter. And I said, well, that's not what you said on the phone. Yeah. If that's like your negotiating tactic, it didn't work. You didn't do yourself any favors. And it set the tone for what that process was going to look like. And immediately I thought, I don't want to work with him. I don't want my clients to have to deal with that. So who you choose to work with matters. I have another example.
Well, wait, and that offer you guys accepted was better anyway.
It ended up being better.
Yeah.
So that's something too, right? Like being able to play all sides to keep my client's best interest at heart so that they get the best deal. Sometimes, in full disclosure, even though this one ended up working out where they're getting more money, it's not always all about the money. It could be the terms, the closing date, right? Just so many other factors. I've had clients win listings because they wrote a letter that really appealed to the seller. So that's a huge factor too, is just how your agent handles that process. My other example, so I did a deal with this agent and she was horrible to work with, horrible to negotiate with when it came to the Binzer on the inspection. Just, it was a horrible experience. Ended up closing that deal, moving on. And I have another listing, and here she comes with another buyer and writes an offer on that. In this listing, we had multiple offers. I presented them all to my client, and I explained to him, hey, here's what we have. Just FYI, this offer, this agent representing these buyers, I've had a horrible experience with. She was horrible to negotiate with when it came to the inspection, just horrible. And they ended up going with a second best offer because they respected my opinion and valued it. And that was something they were like, it's just not even worth it to mess with that. And the agent that they ended up going with, coincidentally, is an agent that I know very well, and he's great to work with, and we had a great experience.
So just note, not all offers that are accepted are the highest offer.
Right.
It's the best overall offer. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it just makes a difference. So we are very intentional with that, right? Doing our best to make sure that it's a great working relationship, that we're reasonable, we're representing reasonable clients and not working with unreasonable people.
Yeah.
Have you ever had, Ryan, an experience, because I have, working with a buyer or a seller where you're just not gelling?
Yeah, I definitely have had a couple sellers that were tough. But not to the point where, actually, I have one. Well, we'll come to that in a minute.
No, go.
You have one in mind?
I mean, of course, but go.
Well, I was actually going to ask, have you ever lost a listing that you signed? Like you'd already started, then they decided to stop.
Yeah, I had one, and it was just because they were like, we just decided not to sell. That's actually how we created our reimbursement.
Yeah.
Why? Because of that? Because you go through photos, video, and then they quit, and you're like, wait, what? I just spent all this money.
So the reason I asked this question is because it relates to yours. I've had one seller cancel the listing that ended up selling it. And this is what happened. So it was a couple that when you walked in their house, the house was beautiful, but it looked like you walked into China.
Oh.
Like it was just Asian art everywhere, and it was really cool. But
so specific.
Very specific.
Yes.
And we all know that when you're selling a home, you don't want to try to appeal to a very small subset of buyers. You want to show the home so that the vast majority of these buyers will, it'll appeal to them. So you really need to think about neutralizing the home, right? So instead of some bright orange wall, you need to have a gray color or, white or something, right? And maybe not as much of a particular art piece. I mean, it could be, you know, a cabin.
Yeah, it applies
style.
to art. It applies to wall colors.
It could be a fan, like you're a super fan of Ohio State Buckeyes or something.
I had one where they were very into Pinterest and like had very cute like Pinterest decorations around their house. It was beautiful. It wasn't that it was bad. It was just that it was so much that it took away from the home.
Yes. So what ended up happening is we had the listing. They signed it. You know, everything was good until we have our staging consultation. And so we work with amazing stagers that come in and basically help them. They go room by room to help them figure out what they need to do to get their house ready to list. And she was not having what they were sharing. And I was there. So I physically was there. And they are amazing at telling somebody, hey, this room's pretty, but we need to switch it up. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't having it. And so she was so offended by it. And they did such a good job. My heart goes out to them, and they felt bad. It just wasn't in the cards. And so I realized that is not our client. I was not their listing agent. Yep. And we know that we're not going to be everybody's jam.
Yeah.
We're really dang good at what we do.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
you know, there's somebody else out there for them.
And even though, and I think this is again, like peeling back the curtain, even though we know that, right? Like our mind knows that, hey, we're not a good fit. We shouldn't work together. It's not worth it. It still hurts. Yeah. It's still a bummer.
Yeah. It's, you know, cause you realize, okay, I can't help them.
Yeah.
And that's income that you now lost, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
And especially when you invest time and energy into it. That's the thing I think that people don't realize when it comes to working with a realtor is we take this so personally, and we invest all of our, you know, time and energy into making sure that we set you up for success. And so when you don't see the value in that, that's hurtful.
Yeah, it can be. So I've learned to have some pretty thick skin in this industry. Yeah. I remember the first time I learned that I needed to have thicker skin was early when I got going in this. The HOA of the community that I farm was looking for some help, and I said, hey, I'll be glad to help. And I decided, okay, if you need help with a newsletter, let's do your newsletter. And it was a quarterly thing, so we only did this once a quarter. And we invited other business owners in the community to join in if they wanted to have free advertising, right? And we get a request from another realtor, which is fine, and he wanted to take advantage of that and be in the newsletter for free advertising. Well, we were busy selling homes, and we hadn't gotten to all of them yet. And so apparently he goes on to the community residents only Facebook page and starts blasting me and our team. And I start getting screenshots of this from all of my friends that live there. And I'm thinking, what the heck?
Yeah.
Why would somebody do that?
Yeah.
And
it's happened to me.
It was tough. It was tough because that was the first time I felt like anybody had ever questioned my integrity in my life, maybe. I don't know. And it was like, so I just decided that we were going to kill him with kindness. Yep. And I'm going to beat him on the scoreboard.
Well, for sure.
And I did.
Yeah, of course you did.
But we just didn't address it.
Totally.
And we just kept doing what we did. And
yep. I mean, I think when it comes to any, I don't want to call it hate, but you know what I mean? Like pushback or whatever, flack. I think it's more of a reflection of that person than anything. And I think it's really important to respond with kindness and to take the high road. It doesn't ever serve you to match them and meet them there.
We've had to do that many times.
Many times.
And we talk about it almost every time too, because sometimes behind the scenes we commiserate with each other for a few minutes, and then we kind of work through it, but we also give each other advice on how to handle it. And I love hearing Janine's stories when she has a tough client or a tough conversation, because I want to gauge how she responded, how she handled it to what I think I would have done.
Great. I think it's more because you're glad that it's me and not you.
But I mean, we have both had our share. So that's
the other thing I would say too, to piggyback off of what we were just saying, is when someone doesn't choose to work with us, I always think that is how it was supposed to be. Yeah. Like there was a reason, it saved me from having to deal with that person, because to your point, we're not going to mesh with everybody. We mesh with most.
Well, what you were talking about earlier, I mean, I've had like really, really close friends decide to go a different route. And that's hard because, I mean, we're like brothers, right? And, I've just realized that some people prefer to keep business and personal stuff separated. I personally want to do business with people I know and trust.
100%.
Not everybody is comfortable doing that. And so you just have to realize that that's how they want to, go after it, and that's fine.
My very good friend, when I first got licensed, said that same thing to me. They were selling their house and wanting to buy, and she said, Janine, I think we're going to go with somebody else that's not connected to us, just to keep it, our friendship separate. And I wrote her a long letter and just explained how, because I am your friend, I'm actually going to care even more and really want to do a good job for you. I value you and I value our friendship, and I'm going to have your best interest at heart over mine for sure when it comes to, and I think on a side note, we do that really well. We always put our clients' interests front and center. There are a lot of agents. I'm going to
come back to that in just a second.
Well, because there are a lot of agents that will put their paycheck front and center versus their client's interest.
That's why that agent who was a jerk, that's why he was having that conversation, because he was more worried about his compensation, which was a $2,000 difference,
right?
And getting his client that deal, and they lost it.
Totally, because of that.
Yeah.
So anyways, they ended up using me, help sell, help buy, and am currently working with them again, and have worked with all of their family and absolutely love it.
And I would tell any of my friends the same thing. Like, listen, it's like a referral. I treat referrals like gold because they are.
For sure.
Not only for that person, I want that person to go back to the people who referred them to me and say, you were right. Thank you. Because he killed it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and then the other thing, that story I told at the beginning, my clients don't know all that goes on behind the scenes. I think that's something, in full disclosure, we have to be better at, is letting them see a little bit of that. But how much we are looking out for them, protecting their interest, right? Giving them additional exposure. And so there's just a lot that goes into it. And sometimes I have said this many times, when you're stressed, the best of your worst comes out. And buying or selling a home is a very stressful process. And so unfortunately, we get to see the not so good side of our clients because they're going through a stressful process. We have to respond in grace. We have to kind of keep them steady and focused on what they're working towards.
Because a lot of times they'll lash out at you.
Yeah.
Or at us, right?
Well, and I can't respond.
Yeah.
You have to just take it. And
that's part of the reason why we wanted to have this conversation in this podcast episode, is to help people understand more about what really, really good top agents do behind the scenes. And I'm going to give you an example.
Yeah, let's do it.
So back when the market was crazy, I was selling this house in Chandler, and we had 7 offers come through. And the highest offer was the best one. And so we accepted the offer, and within 24 hours, those buyers backed out for whatever reason. I think they probably found another house. So what most agents would have done is they would have called the second best offer, which was $7,000 lower, and they would have called and said, hey, you're on, let's go, and then they would go under contract. Well, that's not what I did, and this is what happened. So right when we went under contract on the first offer, this guy calls me and says, hey, I'm interested in this house. I don't have an agent, but I'm really interested. And I told him we were under contract. So before I called the second agent, the second place agent, I called this guy back and I said, hey, this is where we were, or, this is where we are. What are your thoughts? And he goes, what was the first offer? And I told him it was above list price. And he goes, I'll match it. And we ended up helping them buy the house.
Yeah.
So it was a $7,000 difference that my sellers got, and they would have known nothing about it.
Totally.
And they would have been happy as a lark because it was great. It was a great offer and a great deal, but $7,000.
Yeah.
Why? Because I spent about 3 extra hours working with this guy and trying to figure out what's the best solution for my sellers. That's the stuff we do all the time, but we don't tell that story.
Right.
And most people don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Yep. So that's part of the reason why I want to share that.
No, I love that. Yeah. I think that's what sets us apart, is being able to go above and beyond, negotiate really well for our clients. And because at the end of the day, let's be real, what difference did that make in your commission? Not much, right? But it's a huge benefit to them. Some of my favorite stories. So I have clients that when we sold, they had their house listed with another realtor, weren't able to sell it, and they were under contract on a new build, and their contingency window was getting ready to expire. And she reached out to me and said, Janine, I need your help. So she fired her realtor, hired me. We got their house sold, under contract, sold, all of that. And her husband wanted to take me and my husband out to dinner after. And throughout the process, the husband was on the quieter side. And at the end of our dinner, he said to me, Janine, before we leave, I just want to say thank you, because by you selling our home and selling it for how much you did, not only were we able to buy our dream home, but we were able to take the extra money we got and use it and bless each of our kids in a separate way.
That's awesome.
And he went through and he said, one of our kids had car problems, so we fixed their car, and you just went through this.
Yeah.
So that's powerful.
20 grand?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what would you do with an extra 20 grand? And that's often what we are able to get our clients compared to what they would have had.
Yeah.
So
it's stuff like that I love. This house that we all chipped in to help stage, they moved out of state. They're staying with family, waiting for this house to sell before they buy. And I knew if we were to put their house on the market with them living there with 2 little kids, it would not go well for them. They would take a big hit on price because they weren't going to be able to present the home with its best foot forward. So what I told her was, let's pre-market it, right? Do all of our coming soon marketing. And as soon as you move out, we'll get it cleaned. We'll have the paint done. We'll clean the carpets, clean the windows. So it's looking beautiful. I'll come in and do some light staging and we'll get it on the market. And that's the one that we've had multiple offers on and are under contract, and they're just beyond happy.
And our whole team was on that one. We all actually went and helped stage that thing because we're pulling furniture, because our staging partners, they just couldn't get to it fast enough.
Yeah. And can I say, to just give our team a shout out, I'm sure you feel this way, Ryan. I feel like we have the absolute best team, from our agents to our administrative support. Yeah. Everybody that we work with is truly the best at what they do. They make us look good and allow us to go out and be good at what we do. And I just absolutely love that. So I have to say that.
We get the limelight stuff quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's part of the role, but at the same time, they are so crucial to not only helping us be good and look good, right? But to make sure our clients are taken care of.
Yeah.
So they all take care of their roles and their checklists and knock it out like champs. So
yes, there's a lot that and I think it's good sometimes to share it, because I started this with, you have somebody that says, hey, I'm thinking of getting into real estate because I love looking at pretty houses. There is so much more.
My first question is, are you sure?
Right.
Do you know what that really means?
Right. There's, that, what is that saying? I wake up every day, the rent is due every day, right? Kind of a thing. It's so true in our business. There's no guaranteed paycheck. And in fact, your paycheck is completely dependent upon the work that you do.
You don't get paid until it's completely done.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like you get paid along the way. Coming from corporate America, where I worked for money in that sense, it's different because even though I worked hard and I was good at what I did, I knew that paycheck was coming. When you switch to an entrepreneur, then you have to go hunt, and it's a completely different mindset.
Totally. I mean, we can do really well if we work really hard.
If you do it.
Right. And we can also really get stuck in there. That's why a lot of agents don't last in this business. Majority of agents end up getting out of it after a few years. The majority of agents sell between 5 and 8 homes a year, because it's a really difficult business. And I don't think a lot of people realize that when they get into it, but it's also, and I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and end on this, it's super rewarding to be able to help somebody with one of the biggest transactions of their life, and to watch them with their family enjoy a home that you help them buy. I just absolutely love it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is when I get a random text from a client I helped them buy this home 2 years ago, and they say, check it out. And they show me what their living room looked like then and what it looks like now.
I love it.
Just did the remodel or something.
Yeah.
And made the house their home.
Yeah.
It's the coolest thing.
I love it. I thank goodness for social media, and you get to stay connected with your clients after, and seeing them make memories in their home and spend the holidays there. I just feel like, wow, I got to be a little part of that. It's very, very cool. It's not lost on me. I take it super seriously, you know, and again, going back to that conversation with my clients last night, the way that I ended it with them is, I just want you to understand that I know that this is stressful for you. I know that this is taking longer than we want. I know that it's hard. It's hard having to clean your house, leave for showings, take the pets out, right? At a moment's notice, only to come back and find out, okay, they're not buying it. They didn't like it or whatever.
Or they didn't even show up.
Right. We've had that. Or they were there for 10 minutes, just in and out, you know, that's hard. So I understand that. I deeply care about it and it weighs on me, and I want to make this the best experience possible for them. They're not just another number to me, nor I know that for you either.
Well, that's why when those occasions where you get that feedback that's not super positive, which is rare, but it does happen. Like, I'll give you a quick example. We send out these mailers, and I got one back in the mail that said, "Please remove from list," in handwritten. So I reached out to them in an email. I said, "Hey, I got this in the mail. I just wanted to check in with you and see, you know, what may have prompted this." And eventually she responded and she said, basically, something like, it is, how do I say it? How did she say it?
I think it was just like, you know what, we've just decided we're going to work with another realtor, something like that.
It's not business we would want to return. And I'm just thinking, holy cow, because I remember that very clearly. That house we were going up against like 4 other offers, and they had to pay over appraised value to compete. And clearly told them this, and this is, you know, what you're going to need to do. Because I had conversations with the listing agent, multiple, and had built a relationship with her, she wanted us to win, you could tell. So she gave us kind of the insight in how we could compete with that offer. And we got it. And the house is beautiful, and they love the house. That's what she even said. But for some reason, it just wasn't the right fit.
Yeah.
So that was hard to take too.
It is hard. Any of those things where you're like, what did I do? I thought everything was great.
To this day, I do not know.
Yeah.
And I will say, because we talk about this, you do this too. We assess things very honestly, especially when there's even slightly negative feedback, to see how we can better ourselves and get better as a team and with our service. And I cannot, for the life of me, think of, other than maybe some sort of personality thing, I don't know.
Well, and I think that at the end of the day, right, when you can look at it and say, did I do everything that I could do? Did I do everything right? And if they're still unhappy, then you just have to let it go. It is what it is, right? Yeah. And move on. And then focus on the ones that do value you and appreciate you and see your greatness, right?
Right, because 1 out of 10 or 20 or 30 that isn't 100% happy, you can't let them take away from all those other people you've killed it for, right?
Totally.
And that still come to our events, and they would call us in a heartbeat if they had a question.
Right.
That's another thing that I love, is when they call me and say, "Hey, do you know somebody who can help me buy this car?" Has nothing to do with real estate.
Totally.
But guess what? I got somebody.
Yeah.
So that's fun, because then you just get to connect all these different things, and you're like the person they think of.
I love that.
So that's cool.
I do. And I think as a team, we do that really well. We get a lot of people that reach out to us for those kinds of connection questions, right? Yep. So I think real estate is an amazing business. There's no like cap on what you can achieve. It's also difficult. You're working with people. And I would say, if people want to get into real estate, do you like people? That should be the question. Not do you like houses?
That's the number one.
Right? It's do you like people?
And do you thrive on serving people even when it's hard?
Yes.
And what they're asking for is hard.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, to the houses, quit watching HGTV.
Yeah.
Because that's not really how it is. I mean, I love HGTV. I do, but that's not how this industry really is.
Hey, Ryan, I feel like we need to end on like a speed round with each other.
Okay.
I'm going to like totally go off of our script and what we normally like speed round ask.
Okay.
What is your favorite board game?
It's actually a game I haven't played yet.
How can it be your favorite then?
So it's one I want to buy. It's called Cash Flow.
Oh, yes.
So Rich Dad Poor Dad, if you've ever read the book, I've always wanted to play the game and I've never bought it. And it basically teaches you how to get out of the rat race by buying assets versus liabilities. And I want to get it and have my kids learn it too.
That's
cool. So
cool.
that is my favorite game. I haven't even played it yet.
Okay.
What about you?
Favorite, I said board game.
Yeah.
I would probably go with like a classic like Life or Monopoly.
Monopoly's good.
right? Like I love
We're
that
trying
as
to
a
play
family.
real life Monopoly here.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, we are, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. I know you love sweets.
Oh gosh.
What is your favorite?
So we both have, I joke about this, and this may be inappropriate, but I have an inner fat kid that gets crazy sometimes. And my favorite two things to chomp on is ice cream and cinnamon rolls.
Yes.
Are ice cream and cinnamon rolls by far.
So good.
What about you? Because I know you got it too.
I know. It is. I have a sweet tooth for sure.
She says it nicer than I do.
No, I love a really good chocolate cake. Like just back to basics.
But see, she's a freak. Like she'll eat one bite of this beautiful chocolate cake, and then she sets it down and doesn't touch it again. That's ridiculous.
I just need a little bit, just to satisfy that craving.
I mean, I guess it's self-control, but there's no way that's happening for me.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite car, either one that you've owned or one that you want to own?
Okay, so this has been kind of a evolution for me. So I never really wanted to drive a flashy car. And I would tell people, if you ever see me do it, you know that everything else is taken care of. And that's probably true still.
For sure, as it should.
But let me tell you, my mindset's changed a little bit on that recently. So I got to drive a pretty fast car recently, and I thought, why not? Like, why not make that a goal to drive a really cool car? I don't care if anybody in this world sees it. I do not care. It's for me driving a cool, fast car that I love. Maybe there's a little bit of that, but it's very, very little for me. So what would that be? A McLaren would be awesome. But to be honest, just having a super sick rigged out Jeep would be probably my, and then 1968 Shelby GT Mustang. Eleanor would be my dream car. Those are about $170,000 though.
Yeah.
So anyway, what about you?
I mean, I'm not like into cars, so my answer is going to be like super duper boring. I really like the car I have now, my little BMW X7.
Yeah, which is cool.
My Denali I had before, I really liked too. I'm sure if we were to ask Ray, he would have like a whole other answer, and he's probably very disappointed with my answer, but I don't know. I'm not like a car person.
So just on a tangent real quick, does the car you drive as a realtor, as a professional, matter?
I mean,
this is a tough question.
I think it's a good question. I would say for me, it does, but it's not necessarily the car, but like, is it clean? Right? Like, I don't want to show up in like a dirty car. Like, I'm really big on making sure my car is freshly cleaned.
Right.
So
I even got a car wash subscription, which I hate subscriptions. Just so that there's no excuse, it will be clean when I show up to somebody's house.
It's kind of like what you wear, right? It's like, how you show up.
In today's world, we don't actually drive clients around very often unless they're coming from out of state. And usually then you just meet them at the houses.
But yes, to that point, I live in my car a lot. Yeah. So I want it to be comfortable.
It's like our
I want
office.
It to drive well. Yeah. Yes.
So, I've known attorneys that have purposely not driven super fancy cars because they don't want their clients to think that they're making all this buku bank off of them, right?
Yeah.
So there's a fine line there, but you can't be rolling up in some piece of crap car either, because it is a representation of in their minds, in most people's minds, how successful you are. And they need to have some level of confidence that you are good at what you do, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm not going to be driving a Lambo or that McLaren to a listing appointment. That's not happening, which I don't have, but someday.
Okay, last question. I absolutely love your wife, Kara. You guys are amazing, awesome couple. What's like a favorite memory you have with her? Have you guys been married for how long?
19 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. Our trip to Hawaii was pretty awesome.
Was it?
A couple of years ago. She and I went, and that was a fun time because I had never been to Hawaii, neither had she. Honestly, like, we have some milestone birthdays that we just hit in our household. So we call it the Hatcher Kid Birthday Week because in 9 days, all three of our kids have a birthday. And that was, I guess, is poor planning on our part. I don't know. But August is crazy. So Braden turned 18, so that's a milestone. Cammie turned 16, so now she's driving. And then Gavin is no longer a little kid. He's a teenager, 13, and he's in middle school. So we don't have any grade schoolers. So this last several weeks, we've really been contemplating memories that we've made, and it's having fun with our kids. And most of the time it's in our house.
Yeah.
So it's not even some major trip, although we've we do a good job of going on trips, just to make memories. And we've got a couple coming up that are fun, but those are probably my favorite with her.
I love that.
Because when I see, especially when she's pulling up like you just did this earlier, pulling up pictures of the kids when they were little or watching some of the home videos, you could just see the joy in her, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that.
What about you? And Rayman.
I know. I mean, yeah, it's probably very similar to you and just like the family memories that are amazing. Anytime I'm with Ray, he's like, and he's relaxed and having fun. Like he's super funny. Yeah. So it kind of is like on vacation, right? Where all of us as a family or goofing off in the house and chasing the kids around, Chase is at the age where he's like very, I don't know, wants to like fight with us all the time. And so we're
like wrestle.
Right. Wrestle. Yeah. Yes. That's what I meant. Yeah. And so Ray's like chasing him around the house and we're just like cracking up, so just being goofy. I love that.
What's your favorite color?
Yellow.
It's
a happy color. Yeah.
Mine's black.
Yeah.
It's not happy.
I don't think that's a real color though.
It's cool. I don't
think it is. I don't know.
I like black. I don't know.
Well, thanks, Ryan. I love chatting with you. That's it.
Okay. I was trying to think of another question for you. But what's your favorite book?
Well, my favorite book, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And actually I feel like I really should say the Bible, right? Like there's like so much wisdom in there.
Yes.
That's super important to me. So I love to read. Oh my gosh, I love it. That's one of my favorite things to do.
What are you reading right now?
Several books. So we have a podcast guest coming up, Stephanie Horton, who wrote a book. So I'm reading her book in preparation, and that's a fun fiction, like fantasy book.
Our team reading.
We're reading
How to Win Friends
and Influence People.
That's another classic.
Super good classic.
If you haven't read that, read it. That's got so many good things in it.
We at dinner the other night, I pulled it out and I was like reading my notes to the family, right? Just so good, so I love to read.
Okay. Well, thanks guys. We appreciate it.
Yeah, please. We would love to have you like and subscribe so that you can follow us and get all of our podcast episodes. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Real Deal, where real estate meets real life. Make sure to follow or subscribe to the Home Selling Team on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify to stay up to date with our podcast.